Hi, welcome to another pattern drafting tutorial. Today I'll be showing you how to draft a princess dart bustier. Alright, the first thing we have is our pattern paper, our ruler, our marker, your scissors and your pen. These are the measurements you'll be using for this princess dart bustier. If you are new here, please subscribe to my channel, like and comment if you have any questions or contributions. And if you are a subscriber, thank you for returning. The first thing I'm going to do is to draw a straight line. As we all know, you have to draw a straight line for your starting point and whenever you want to start pattern drafting. After drawing the straight line, I'm going to draw another line below, which is going to be the length of my half length, or we can call it the waistline. For these measurements, we'll be using 18 inches. This princess dart is for a busty person, so the measurements we'll be using are quite large. Mind you, my pattern paper is on fold, so all the measurements I'll be taking are from the folded parts. Make sure yours is also on fold or your fabric is on fold as well. So I went ahead to label it waistline and chest shoulder line. The next line I'll be inputting is my shoulder to nipple line. My shoulder to nipple line is 11 inches. So I'm just marking 11 inches across, and then I'll draw a straight line to connect. So just draw a straight line and label it shoulder to nipple line. The next line I'll be drawing is my shoulder to under bust line. My shoulder to under bust line is 15 inches. So I'll just mark 15 inches across and also draw a straight line. After drawing the line, you also label it under bust line. Label your line so you don't make mistakes while drafting. The next line I'm going to be inputting is my back length on my shoulder line. My back length is 16 inches. Divided by 2, we have 8. So I'm just going to place 8 on that shoulder line I marked initially and just mark it. After marking the shoulder line, I went in on the neck by 3 inches width and 4 inches depth. You can go in as much as you want and to make your desired neckline. So on the shoulder slope, I went down for 1 inch and just connected the line. Next thing I'm going to be inputting is my armhole measurements. My bust measurement is 40 inches divided by 6 plus 1.5 inch. I got 8.1.16 thereabouts, so I just approximated it to 8 inches. So I'll just mark 8 inches on that point and draw a straight line to connect it downwards. After marking it downwards, I'm going to draw another line across and name it my chest line. Your chest line is normally where the armhole line stops. The next thing I'm going to do is to insert my armhole curve. For this, I'm going to be dividing my bust by 4. My bust is 40 inches, by 4 is 10. So on my chest line, I'm going to mark 10 inches. On my armhole length, I'm going to divide it by 2. And whatever I get, I'm going to add I'm going to go in by 0.5 inch on that line. So half of it is 4 inches. On that 4 inches, I'm going in by half an inch just to create the curve. And then I'll just use my curved ruler to connect the line. The next step we're taking is to insert our nipple to nipple measurement. My nipple to nipple measurement is 8 inches, so I'll be adding extra half an inch so that by the time I'm drawing in on my pattern paper, I'll have enough to sit directly on the nipple to nipple point. So I'm marking 4.5 inch from the chest line all the way down to the waistline. After marking, just connect the lines together to give you a straight line. Now for the bustier, for the armhole that I'm going to measure the curve, like I'm going to go around the curve from the beginning to where it stops on the chest line. So after measuring it, I got 10 inches. So I'm going to divide 10 inches by 2.5, 5. So go ahead and measure 5 inches on your curve and mark it. So on that point I marked 5 inches. I'm going to go up from that point by 1 inch and go down by another 1 inch. This is going to be 2 inches altogether. If you wish, you can use 1 inch or 1.5 inches. It all depends on how busty you are. For a moderate bust, you use 1.5, and for a small bust, you can use 1 inch. Mine is a large bust, so we are going with 2 inches on the armhole line. Okay, let's do the dart for the bodice. On the nipple point, I went down by 1 inch and went up by 1 inch, so that by the time we're done with our dart, we will not have any point. It won't be too pointy by the time you are joining your fabric. So on the waistline, I came out by 2 inches towards the outer part. I measured 2 inches and I marked the line. You can make use of 1 inch, you can make use of 1.5, you can make use of even 1 inch. Like I said earlier, it all depends on your bust size. On the under bust, I'm also going to mark 2 inches and draw a straight line downwards. From this under bust line, I'm going to use my curved ruler to connect from this straight line to the 1 inch I marked under my nipple point, and then just connect the line together. The next line I'll be connecting is from that armhole point I took out 1 inch downwards. I'm going to connect it to the nipple point with my curved ruler as well. I'm also going to go ahead and connect the 1 inch I took on the upper part of the armhole downwards, like so. Okay, now we're going to adjust the armhole that we're going to come out of the armhole by 1 inch, because by the time we are done joining these parts together, the armhole is not going to be equal, it's not going to be enough. So this 1 inch is just so that by the time you join from the lower part upwards, it's going to sit perfectly on your armhole. So just draw a straight line upwards. The next thing I'll be doing is to replace my dart that I took out for the armhole on the chest line. Remember, it was 2 inches, so I'm just going to place 2 inches on the chest line and then connect the armhole to that point. Now I'm just going to outline the bustier so you can see the lines boldly. I'm just using my curved ruler to trace on top the lines I already drew earlier with my pen. Now we are inputting our body measurements. My bust measurement is 40 inches divided by 4, we have 10. So I've taken out the darts that we took out and I'm just replacing it on the bodice and marking the points. Then I added 1.5 inch sewing allowance. You can add as much as 2 inches, even 1 inch. Just know the amount you'll be taking out when you are sewing your parts together. So for the waistline, I divided my waist, which is 36 inches, divided by 4. I had 9 inches, so I replaced the 2 inches that I took out, and I added my 1.5 inch sewing allowance. And just connect a straight line. Don't mind that this lower part is slanted. By the time you are done joining, it's going to fit properly. We're basically done with the front bodice. I'm just going ahead to shade the parts that we won't be needing, and then I'm going to go ahead and add my sewing allowance of 1/2 inch round. I'm going to add it below and on the shoulder line. When I'm done adding my 1/2 inch sewing allowance, I'm just going to go ahead and trim it off. Be very careful while trimming so you don't trim out the parts that you need. After trimming, this is what we have for the front bustier. Let's get right into the back. So guys, as you can see, I've drafted my back bodies. Well, not drafted, but the basic parts. I've added my zipper allowance, my starting point, and my waistline. So on the neckline, I went in by 3 inches and went down by 3 inches as well. You can go in higher, it all depends on your back and your style. So go ahead and input your shoulder slope of 1 inch and connect the line together. I'm also going to draw my armhole line of 8 inches downwards and just draw a straight line to create my chest line for the back and connect the line upwards. Next line I'll be drawing is my shoulder to my under bust of 15 inches and just marking it across. Then draw a straight line as well and label your lines. Alright, the next thing I'm going to do is to input my bust measurements of 10 inches and then just draw the armhole curve. It doesn't have to go in because the back is usually straight. And then the next thing is to input my nipple to nipple point of 4.5 inches. Remember it was 4 inches, I added 5 inches. So when I'm joining it will be enough. And then just draw a straight line. So for the back dart, I'm going to go down from the chest line by 1 inch, and on the waistline I'll go in by 1/2 inch and come in by 1/2 inch and just connect the lines together. For the back dart, it's just 1 inch. Okay, now we're basically done with the back bodies. The next thing I'm going to do is to do a princess dart at the back. You can leave your back bodies like this, and if you choose to go ahead, then you just make use of the other method. So I'm just going ahead to insert the body measurements, the waist measurements, and the bust measurements. Don't forget to replace your darts as well. Okay, for the armhole part, I'm going to measure around from the shoulder line to the chest line. That's the armhole. I'm going to place my tape and measure from one point to the other. I got 8.5 inches. So at the end of the day, divided it by 2 and I got 4.025 inches. So just mark 4.025 inches on your armhole and mark the line. So after marking 4.25 inches, I'm just going to use my free hand to connect the lines together. It doesn't have to be a perfect line, just make it curved so you can have that princess dart effect. Okay, after creating the curve, the next thing is to come out of the armhole by 0.5 inches and come out by 3/4 of an inch. That is 0.75 inches, but I used 0.5 inches for mine. After marking it, I'm just going to use my curved ruler to connect that point to the chest line, that's the armhole part, to give it a new armhole. Okay, the next thing I'm doing is to insert 1/2 inch upwards from the zipper point. This is just to prevent the bulge by the time you are done fixing your zip. That bulge you normally have. So I'm just going to connect that 1/2 inch downwards to the other part of the waistline. We all know that the back half length is usually shorter than that of the front, so you can make use of your shorter half length, and then when you are joining, you catch 2-inch darts by the bust part for the front. If you need ideas on that, you can check my tutorial on how to draft a basic bodice, or you can as well use the same length as I did for mine and it will still come out well. So I'm just joining the line. I'm adding extra 1/2 inch sewing allowance. I'll do that round my bodice. I'll also mark 1/2 inch on my shoulder line and on my neckline. Okay, so when I'm done, I'm just going to go ahead and cut out the pieces. Be very careful while you're cutting so you don't cut out the areas where we added extra for allowance. Alright guys, we're done cutting and we have our back bodice. That's basically all for this tutorial. And we have our front bodice as well. So we've come to the end of this tutorial. I hope you found this video really helpful. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comment sections. I'll be available to answer you as soon as I can. And then please subscribe to my channel and share if you found it helpful. Did I say that? Alright, thank you.